What's going on, Photoshop family? Today I'm going to teach you how to color correct uneven skin. What's up, Photoshop fam? I'm Rick Navarro, and this is the Pixel Laundry Photoshop Academy. Okay, so today I've got a great example of uneven skin. Sometimes you get different models, or people who aren't models, or just average folks who've got varying skin tones. It could be the lighting is different. It could be that the camera doesn't have enough pixel density or information to give accurate colors. It could be mixed lighting scenarios. Who knows? It could be any number of things that may be reflecting on your model skin. I came across this image just recently in a project that was probably one of the worst cases of a large variety of color in her skin that I hadn't seen in quite some time. But I thought it'd be a perfect example for you guys, so you can see some of the techniques and the tools that I use to color correct images to get them to even out a little bit better. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. So right off the bat, aside from textural issues, aside from normal blemish control or maybe adjustments and retouching that I might do, the biggest concern to me in this image was the fact that her skin was so many different colors. So she's, she looks like she might be of mixed ethnicity. So there's olive tones to her skin, but there's also these highlights, these areas that are very, very pink or even magenta. It's probably leaning more towards the magenta. Then she has makeup on in addition for the photo shoot. She's got some skin blemishes, dimpling and some pores. Some of this stuff is good for texture. Like, you don't want to just wipe it all out. It'll look really bad. But also, there's just discoloration. So you can kind of see like there's makeup issues. Her skin is coming through. This particular brand, this image is a cosmetic image that focuses on acne control. So they don't overdo their images so that, all of the blemishes are taken away on purpose. And even in the retouch, some of the instructions for this particular project is that we don't polish the images super refined, because obviously they want to show that their product is serving people who have acne, which is all of us, right? So this is an interesting picture because this is an interesting project, because the balance of retouch and keeping the image natural, there's a fine balance. So we have to be very, very mindful of how far we're working with tonal control and how far these colors we're manipulating. But of course, we're zooming in at 1,000%, and most people are just going to look at it on their phone. But we want a pretty clean image. So she's got rosy cheeks. That's not horrible, but there is it's kind of a balance of discoloration. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So again, always work non-destructively, duplicate that layer. This layer came in as an object, so I'm going to rasterize that. And then first things first, I just want to figure out what's going on. I'm not going to focus too much on the retouch, like I said. So let's just address some of the color issues. First thing I'm going to grab is a hue sat layer, and by clicking this little slider right here, it's going to turn my cursor into an eyedrop tool. And what that is going to do is going to select a color range for me. It's going to grab the exact pixel, but from that pixel out, it's going to give me a color range, so I know exactly what I'm working with here and what I need to address. First thing I want to kind of address is all these little pink areas that are really showing up like almost true pink. Not necessarily magenta, but almost a pink. So when I select that, it's showing up in the reds as I suspected, and it's actually a truer red. And just so I can see this, so I can make the adjustment, I'm just going to turn it on at an extreme. I'm going to saturate that skin extreme. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can see all of the colors of the skin that are being affected, are being blown out or oversaturated. So as you can see, all this red here, I'm not really looking to adjust that. I want to adjust the pink. See how I did the opposite? I grabbed the plus eyedropper tool, and that's adding to my selection, and the minus is subtracting from my selection. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. And again, to be clear, in her T-zone, right here, here, we've got all of this discoloration, and we're also seeing that same color range happen all over her face. And this is the area that I want to affect. Now, you see how this is so much more effective than me trying to blindly paint with a mask, or, just kind of guess where these colors are on her skin. Photoshop is going to do a way more accurate job of grabbing all the pixels, because it's all zeros and ones, right? Like, it's grabbing the exact color number, not a visual number. Remember, now we all see color differently. Not only do human beings see color differently from human being to human being, our monitors view color differently. Your monitor probably doesn't look like my monitor. Depending on the profile that you have set up in your computer, we may not even be looking at the same thing. If you're going to print, that's a completely different story. If you're editing in RGB versus CMYK, if you're working on an 8-bit image versus a 16-bit image, we have to be cognizant of all these things, because when we're color correcting, color correction can drive people crazy. So it's very important that we're working as exact as possible. And when we allow Photoshop to do the guesswork for us, that's what gets us there quicker. Okay. Color is always tricky, but these are ways that you can kind of work around the trickiness of that. So obviously I've oversaturated that on purpose. I just want to make sure that I'm on the right color. Now that I know that I am, I can start to slide this top slider over to a more a range that's more closer to the outside of her skin. I'm using kind of this outer edge because this feels a little bit more natural. One, because there might be makeup on the highlight points of her face, which would be all these areas in the T-zone. Okay. Two, because I just think the skin is a lot more even towards the outer edge. So you can already see I've made the adjustment already, and how we're starting to warm up. We're getting closer. Now remember, now the rosiness in her cheeks, maybe a little bit of blush, a little bit of makeup, that's okay. I'm not too concerned about that. But you can see right off the bat, we've made a huge adjustment. And that's by using color correction in tonal ranges and affecting the channel or the individual range, as opposed to globally making an adjustment and trying to paint and refine down. Okay, I may do that one more time. Let's just do it again. Now that we've got a nice base layer there, maybe I come in here and start to affect some of these colors. And maybe this time it is in the reds channel. So if we crank it up a little bit higher, right? It is going to affect some more of those reds. Now I'll show you another trick to kind of bring these down a little bit. If I grab the center here, I can slide it over because we already know that it's more in the magenta scale. There we go. See, if I slide the entire slider over, it's going to affect things that are in that color range. But since we're dealing with flesh tones and skin, it's like reds, a little bit of yellows, depending on the ethnicity, or the complexion. It might affect more of the magentas or blue. And this is kind of where I want to live. Remember, now I'm working in layers, and layers work like transparent onion skins. The uppermost layer is the most visible layer, and it works from the top down. So this is the layer that's on top in the magentas. And again, I'm going to slide this over as something that is something a little bit closer to her skin tone. Let's pull that saturation down because I don't need it that bright anymore. And right off the bat, we're seeing a great change in her skin color. Okay, so this is where we started. A little bit of blue, a little bit of magenta, a lot of pink. And now we've got a more even skin tone, a creamy texture, a more even texture to start my retouch with. I haven't even done the retouch. This is a great candidate for frequency separation. If you don't know about that, check out my video here. If you do know about that, you could do your retouch first and then your frequency separation, or your frequency separation first and then your color correction. Or in this particular case, I'm doing the color correction and then I'll move over to the frequency separation, because when I go to my frequency separation, I'm going to have to address the tonal values anyways. And if those colors, those magentas and those blues and those pinks are in my low pass layer, it's gonna start me off with problems right from the gate. So instead of doing that, I basically just get a nice, clean, even surface to work with. And then I'll do my frequency separation and then go deal with all the little minutia like the blemishes and the textural, retouch that I may have to do in this particular image. Okay, I promised you one more thing, and that was how I can maybe make this blend a little bit better. So I'm actually really happy with the way that it looks right now. But let's just say, just for the sake of like style or artistic merit, I wanted to introduce like a cross-processing sort of look or color in here. But I didn't want it to apply to like everything. Let's go ahead and do one more hue sat layer. This time I'm gonna go colorize, and maybe I'll add like a cool blue in here. Orange and blues, like orange and cyans, will work really nicely. Okay, if I double click on this layer, there's this little blend if section here in your layer styles palette. I learned this a few years ago, and it kind of revolutionized my Photoshop work life. Like, I love this trick because you can use it with masks, you can use it with color, you can use it with other layers. This blend if trick is bomb. Like, it's amazing. Okay, so what it's doing here is it's telling the layer to blend if certain parameters exist, right? I will say, let's grab this first one. If we grab this white slider over, basically it's telling the layer to blend if the layer is on anything that is within this particular color range. Got to take out the trash, guys. In this color range. So if it's in the light tonal color range, it's going to pull it off. Now, if that's true on the lighter side, it's also true on the darker side. So if I pull this slider down and tell it, I don't want you to affect anything in the darker, the midtones, or the low light color range, take it off. Okay, so this is what it's doing right here. Underlying layer would be anything below it. Obviously, in this particular case, it's working very similar, but in some situations, you'll find that this layer, this layer as in this section of the editing tool, it doesn't work as well. And you'll have to basically try to get the same effect, but by using the underlying layers under that. In this particular one, it works really well. Now, I kind of want this in the shadows. I don't want it in the highlights, but that transition is super, super rough. If you can see in here, like it's kind of crusty and kind of sandy looking, and it doesn't give me the transition I want. So if I hold down the Alt key, this little slider will split in two. Now I can slowly graduate that color into the shadows, and now I've got a much more natural look to my effect. So this is like a cross-process look. It's used in a lot of fashion stuff. Instead of using maybe a blending mode, you'll use a blend if layer, and you'll get a similar effect. You can do multiple layers of this. Here, let's just throw one in here just for the sake of example, and we'll go in the complete opposite direction. Let's go like an orange, right? We're gonna saturate that really highly. Again, double click here. Maybe instead of the shadows this time, I'm gonna take it off of the shadows, only apply it to the highlights. And again, I'm gonna split that blend layer by holding the Alt or the Option key. And now I'm creating like an antiquing effect that would be further kind of amplified if I threw some textures on here and kind of roughed up the image to give it like an aging effect. Or, you know, if I was trying to create like an antiquing paper or a stained paper. I don't know, the possibilities are endless. But you can see how a blend if layer can soften your effect or soften the application of those colors, because I'm introducing colors to basically counteract the colors that are happening naturally in the skin. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. If you've got ideas for future episodes, be sure to comment in the section below. We'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks again. Stay real. We'll talk to you real soon.